Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. You're listening to episode number 121. It's 121. I'm Victoria Gallagher, Law of Attraction hypnotist and number one best-selling author of the book Practical Law of Attraction: Align Yourself with the Manifesting Conditions and Successfully Attract Your Desires. I'm also the founder of HipTalk.com and HypnoCloud apps, which gives you access to over 500 hypnosis recordings right in the palm of your hand. So be sure to download that app from the app stores. And today I have a very special guest with me, Marni Battista. Is it Battista or Battista?
Battista, you got it right out of the gate. Right out of the gate.
Good. My Siri was reading this to me a little while ago, and she mispronounced it.
She
so
was
I wanted
wrong.
to.
Yeah, Siri is wrong.
Marni is a relationship coach, and she is the queen of making her clients irresistible to men. Marni is a certified professional dating and relationship coach and expert. She's a writer and nationally recognized TV, print, and online magazine expert. She's also had appearances on major television networks such as CBS and ABC, where she's been a guest on Loveline, filling in for Dr. Drew, and Dr. Phil on national broadcast radio shows, and on air with Ryan Seacrest, also on YouTube channels like Off Air with Sissany. Marni's weekly dating and relationship podcast, The Dating Den, has more than 25,000 downloads per month, and she's been named one of 10 best women's dating experts by @datingadvice.com. She's also written a book, How to Find a Quality Guy, and she can be found on her website, datingwithdignity.com. And I'll mention that again, and that'll also be in the show notes. So today, Marni is going to be sharing some of her insights on dating with dignity. So welcome to the show, Marni.
Thank you for that very lovely introduction. Very cool.
You're welcome. Well, thank you so much for blessing the Power of Your Mind podcast with your presence. You've definitely been on some very widely recognized shows. And so, of course, we love to have people like you on the show that have all kinds of tips and tools and techniques and skills to help our listeners to improve themselves. And, we rarely have people that are relationship experts. And yet I know that, so many of our listeners are women and so many of our listeners are single, professional women. So this is going to definitely align with a lot of people that need your help.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. So right now, it is, if you're listening to this from like 10 years from now, you're going to remember, you're going to look back at what we're talking about right now. It is September 2020, and we're still dealing with this crazy time called the coronavirus, or called COVID-19, or whatever you want to call it, the pandemic.
The pandemic, yes. It's got a lot of also known as.
So, and I'm sure that that's got to have impacted people's ability to, if you were having challenges before, I would imagine that right now, thank God I saw a ring on your finger. You're married. I'm married. If you're not married, what are people doing?
Well, here's what's crazy about it. So there's been an 82% increase in the number of people online since April 2020. 82%. Okay. So here's the deal. Like, I think that when one is constantly looking for what's wrong or what's in the way, the pandemic is exactly what you wanted. If you were afraid of dating, if you were going to wait until, you lost 10 pounds, or you learned how to make bread, or you finished your photo album project, great, the pandemic is your best excuse. But the truth is that really what we're finding is this is probably one of the best times to date, because of those 82% that are online now, most of them are actually like never been more serious about looking for a committed relationship. The hookups, like those are pretty much disappearing. I mean, it's too dangerous. Um, and what's interesting too is the longer that we go through this, there's a scientific impact of this is true skin hunger, right? So those, I think
Mhm.
about like me, I live with my husband, I've had kids, I've had, some people don't have any of that. They don't have anyone else in their house. Some of them don't even have pets, right? They're really single and they're social distancing and they're getting out, but they're not touching, right? They're really in
Yeah.
this thing. So the truth is that of those people that are out there that they don't want to do this anymore alone. They're like, let's couple up. Like, I really now understand what my priorities are in my life. I thought it was the gym. I thought it was work. I thought it was like, you know, having as many experiences as I could. But like in the end, I don't want to be this lonely. Like I want to go through this with someone. And so honestly, if you do it right with the right mindset and you're sort of manifesting what you really want, not what your unconscious wants,
Mhm.
you are going to be, you could, be kissing someone under the mistletoe in your own space.
That is so true. And, I love what you said about if there wasn't a perfect excuse before, this has really brought it. It's like, oh, I can't lose weight because I can't go to the gym. I can't, get my business up and running because the economy is bad. I can't date because, we can't get out and meet people. So it's really, really true what you said that, I mean, if this is a good time. And I didn't know that 82 there's been an increase in 82% of people meeting
Yeah,
online.
more people online than ever, and so and it's amazing, and also what we know too, just from seeing our clients who are doing this, it's amazing. Like they're going on 2 to 3 dates with someone, and the man, because I work with mostly women, are like, let's pull our profile down. Like, let's be exclusive. Like, I don't really need to do the let me date 5 people and see if you're the one because I would actually like to hold your hand.
Right, right.
Right? Let alone like have sex. But it's like, and we kissed. That's a big commitment right now.
Absolutely. Oh my God. That reminds me actually when I first met my husband, we met online and both of us were just kind of like doing the dating thing. I'm gonna date, Scott on Tuesday and Steve on Thursday and let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
And then there's like, when is the reason that you decide, okay, well, I'm going to make it exclusive with this person? Well, it's usually because that person kind of wants to go to the next step. And I remember that, the guy I was dating wanted to go to the Grand Canyon. And so I said, okay, I'm going to shut it off with everybody else. Didn't happen to be my husband.
Right.
Who I ended up being my husband. It was a long story getting to where we are now, but it's interesting that you say that because these days it's just holding your hand or kissing is a big deal. That's
It's
a
a
big
huge deal.
commitment.
It's a big commitment.
So what are some of the risks right now that we might not be aware of when it comes to this, dating these days?
Well, okay. I think a couple of things are this, and I just was sharing this in my community, so you guys are the first people to hear this. But
Woo!
no, normally, when we talk about dating, and this isn't rocket science, but people have a list of deal breakers, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some people have a list that's got 100 things on it, which I wouldn't recommend. But like people are always looking for certain things. Now, I recommend that you have 5 deal breakers and they're based on your values. And up until the pandemic, like that was a really good filter, right? You're like going on dates, you're kind of seeing, do we share values? You're married. So you understand like there's going to be things that you disagree about, but you have these 5 core things that get you through the bumpy spots, right? And because, nobody's perfect. So bottom line is what's happening now is that we need to add some other filters,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we want to see if this person is having the same experience and attitude about the pandemic as you are,
Mm-hmm.
because that will impact your ability to progress the relationship. So there's basically like 2 questions that we're kind of filtering by. to help you decide if this person is someone you should meet in person, right? Because obviously you're going to meet virtually, whether it's online, whether it's lots of the apps now have installed video calling. So you don't have to go on FaceTime or Zoom or Skype. You can just use the app itself. But, initially you're going to meet each other virtually. Then the next step is, should we meet in person? So I think there's 2 questions to look at. And people could write these down if you're not driving, which is, are you open? How open are you to change based on your existing views about the pandemic and the levels of disruption that you've experienced? Right? So how open are you to change? And then the second thing, which was so interesting, is how anxious are you regarding the pandemic? And they're based on 3 things: your level of financial risk, your level of medical risk, and your general predisposition to worry.
Those are great questions. I mean, those questions right now tell you so much. It really almost, just by filtering from those questions, it tells you almost everything you need to know, other than, you're going to have the general chemistry and you're going to be in rapport. But I mean, that really speaks deeply about, and it's not right or wrong. It's just, are we going to mesh?
Yes. Well, yeah. And so there's no judgment on any of these answers whatsoever, but what we noticed, right? So, and I won't go into all the details. We'll be posting a blog about this soon on our site, but the bottom line is, if you are super, like anxious and resistant to change, right? We call that the traditional old school dater. They're going to be willing to be digitally dependent for maybe a little bit of time, right? But they're not going to embrace this long term. So if you are someone who's it's going to take me a really long time to meet you in person or to hold your hand, right?
Yeah.
That old school person is probably not going to have the patience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you meet someone who is super flexible and they're not anxious and they're open to change and they will totally gel with whatever behaviors you want to keep, they're flexible and they're patient, that's a great match. Just like if this person, I call it the hey, it ain't a thing dater, they're they are really working hard to try and stay within the restrictions. They might even be acting normally now, even before restrictions are lifted. They want to meet offline quickly. They probably won't be comfortable or patient in terms of progressing the relationship physically. They're not going to be your person. Even if without the pandemic, they were totally would have been a great match for you, right now, they're not. Yeah. Right? Because you're just not in the same attitude. And what I really have been encouraging, and it's not political and it's not judgmental, when you think about those questions, medical risk, financial risk, and prone to worry, right? If you're dating someone and his grandmother just died from COVID, right? Or we've had people who they have to take care of their parents and they're just barely able to see them right now. Right? They have a higher medical risk. Or somebody who's I just want this thing to be over. My business is sucking. I want everyone to wear a mask. I want us all to stay until it's over. Right? That person is going to have a different experience. So none of them are right or wrong. It's just everyone is having a different attitudinal experience right now. And we just need to know where we fall and know where someone else falls.
That's such a great way to understand that, because you just need to know if you're going to mesh with that person or not. And again, it's not about this person's experience is wrong. It's just that somebody that I'm going to be able to do this thing with.
Totally. And what's interesting, and we've had clients who were already dating someone. And this stuff is coming up. And, we've had, I think of one client in particular, she's super active. She's low anxious, low worry, right? Her boyfriend that she was dating for over a year before this is high medical risk.
Yeah.
So for about 6 months, he wouldn't come in her house.
Oh, wow. Wow.
He was afraid. Her kids came back home. They were going out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was they really had to look. So those values, those core values had to get them through. And then they started problem solving and things like that. But just, I really love this conversation. And even if you're not single, this is one conversation we're having now with our friends.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, right?
Yeah. Like I went to I went to Las Vegas, and it was for a business conference, but I still have some friends there. And of course, I'm from Arizona, which during that time was, quite the, I guess, we had quite a lot of cases. It's really come down quite a lot
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now. But, there was a lot of concerns with people going to Las Vegas. And we normally have at this conference, we normally have about 1,000 people, and there were maybe 200 that
Yeah.
came to the conference. But like the 200 that were there, like we're kind of the rebels,
Right. Well, right. You're the low, anxious, like really like, not anxious, really open to change, like whatever it is, or you're the hey, it ain't a thing people. And
Yeah.
that's great. But so I really love this idea because I think it's so important when you're dating, to just understand that, because then, and here's another quick tip. I call it, make sure you don't swerve.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you decide to meet socially in person, but you're distancing, right? And you haven't had this conversation about your comfort level, and the guy comes in to give you a hug, right? And you didn't tell him that you're really anxious or that you're worried, and you were slow to adapt, and you physically pull away. Now,
He
he
falls flat on his face.
yeah, he is going to feel an experience in his body of rejection
Yeah.
personally, even if that you were only rejecting him because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. Another swerve is less obvious, and that's when he asks you out and it's something that's out of your comfort zone, right? Like, hey, do you want to come to my place and I'll cook you dinner? Do you want to go on a boat with me? Summer's almost over, but do you want to go on a boat and da da da? And you're like, you don't know. So you go, yeah, well, I don't know. Let me check. And again, in his brain, he's like, oh, she doesn't want to go out with me.
Right. He
And
doesn't
you just,
understand the reason why.
yeah. And so people are so it's like we're being forced to have the sex talk before we've even met, basically.
Yeah.
Right. And so people are so uncomfortable saying, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is my boundary. And so they just get all awkward, and it gets interpreted as lack of interest. And so you want to make sure that you know your expectations, you communicate them, and that you don't swerve, which gives off a feeling of not interested if you are interested.
Right. So just be upfront about exactly. I mean, to me, honestly, this is just the key to everything. This is the key to everything, just be transparent, about exactly how you feel about that.
Yeah, and I think with so many people when they're dating before the pandemic, like you said, it was challenging before. If you really like someone, you're like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want them to think this. I don't want them to think I'm high maintenance, and all that insecurity. You can't rock the boat with the right person. So this is really just part of that filtering process. The right guy, if he's really your right match, is going to be like, it's cool. Like, you want to like just social distance and wear masks for a few months. I'm cool. But you got to know, and you got to know what you want.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. So a lot of women, they complain about men who are emotionally unavailable. So how can the listener avoid meeting men like that?
I love this question. It's a trick question. If you're meeting men that are emotionally unavailable, you're probably emotionally unavailable.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because like it, you're here, like attracts like, right? So the reason why we meet someone who's unavailable emotionally is because there's a part of us that wants to protect.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't feel safe, right? So if we attract someone who's also not 100% in, then we can make them wrong. That's cool, right? We can
Right?
sort of deny our own stuff, and we'd be like, oh, why do I attract these guys? So and unavailable comes up in lots of different stripes or checkers or plaids, right? So it's like geographically unavailable, Emotionally unavailable, meaning like they have an addiction or something like that, whether it's work or drugs or alcohol or sex or whatever it is. So they're in another relationship, you know,
Mhm.
everyone
Mhm.
thinks they're the only one, but you're not. Right. So there's lots of different ways men are emotionally unavailable. They won't commit, right?
Mhm.
They never commit. So look at yourself and say, do I have any of these patterns? Do I attract, like, is there a pattern to the kind of unavailable that I am attracting? Because they
Mhm.
come in lots of different packages. And then if that's true for you, I think the number one thing to start working on is, what do I need to feel emotionally safe? Right? What do I
Yes.
need to do so that I can feel vulnerable and open, but also feel emotionally safe and grounded? Because when you do and you feel confident and you're not taking things personally and you're rejection proof and dating is fun, and you can handle being treated well, right?
Mhm.
You change your default setting, right? You energetically increase your vibration to that level, right? Then that's where people are like, where are the good men? I'm like, they're energetically at a different vibrational level than you are at.
Yeah.
So you
You're
don't
not
get
gonna see them. You're
you're
not
not
gonna see them.
literally you won't see them. I mean, I have one of my favorite client stories is this woman would go to a barbecue every single year for the 4th of July for years and years and years. She was in a toxic relationship, finally breaks up with that guy, goes to the barbecue. She's getting her burger in her bun, and this really handsome man is like, uh, hi, like, I've seen you here for years and I just had to talk to you this year. You seem really, like, honestly a little unapproachable. And she's like, I never even saw this guy before.
Isn't that interesting?
But
That is so.
yeah, she done the work. They had a conversation. Here it is, like 10 years later, they're married, they have 3 kids.
That is so, and it's so true though. It is absolutely true because I mean, your mind sets it up, when you've got that belief, the reticular activating system is basically just going to filter out all the good men and not let you see them. Even if they are good, they could be right there and under your nose and you never really saw them or noticed them before.
Well, right, you're not I always say, like, it's not where all the good men. It's, are you making yourself allowing yourself to be seen by the good men?
Mhm. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They're not, I love people ask that question because it's such a silly question, really. It's as if I have the key. I'm like, wait, you guys, after the pandemic, come to my island. I've been hoarding them. They're over there. I will take you. You know,
Right.
they're not all like in sequestered away. They're everywhere. And even if you don't have a belief there's no good men and you do believe they are, but you have a story about it, I mean, you're here, you're listening to this show, like, check out what's that story about for you, because it's
Mhm.
basically it's creating the results that you're seeing in your life. So how cool, you know exactly what you need to shift.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are your 7 dating tips for women from men?
My 7 dating tips for that's so funny. So number one would be, put your phone down.
Mm. My husband tells me that, so maybe I need to shift that one.
I know. Well, we hide in our technology, right? And people are so uncomfortable, and you're unapproachable when you're on your phone.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I watched the whole series of Friends recently, and we are watching the friends hang out, right? Like, they're in the Monica's apartment, they're everywhere, and they're engaging and they're talking and they're out and they're at the coffee shop, right? They're not on their phone. So if
Mhm.
you ever go and you want to just do a little experiment, watch a show like that, and you look at all the interactions they have, and it's a show, but it's a reflection of life in the 90s, right? Before we were all on our phones. Um,
Right.
and look at all the interactions. People are smiling, they're saying hi, they're looking at people on the street. So when you're on your phone, it's not going to happen. Um, the other thing is, men don't want to kiss a dude in a skirt.
Right. Okay,
Right?
explain that one a little bit.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is that, again, you don't probably realize you're doing it, but uh, if you are in your masculine energy, meaning that you are competitive, you are pushing the direction. if
Mm-hmm.
you are always making the suggestions, if you're doing all the leading, if you're being very goal oriented, it's very much a repellent to a guy who's looking for someone to be his, his partner. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean don't be who you are. It means that don't lead with it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've done so many online profile reviews, and this is really, so if this is you, I'm a strong, successful, independent looking for my blah, 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 blah. And
Yes.
you're just like, is that all you are? Is that how you're defining yourself?
Right.
When you're talking about how
You
busy,
basically tell them, I don't really need you.
yeah, like if you talk about how busy you are, like men will ask women out, are you free Saturday? And I remember I had one client, she was showing me what she was texting these guys. And I was like, no. She was like, oh, I'd love to, Jeff, but I'm slammed. I got a meeting with Disney at 3 on Friday. I think that will probably run long. And then Thursday I'm meeting with Netflix and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, why? Like, first of all, are you so, yeah, I said, you sound kind of insecure because you're name dropping, number one. And number two, don't tell him how busy you are. He's basically going to think, wow, she's really busy. She doesn't have time to
Yeah.
date.
Well, and it's kind of an excuse.
Totally. So just say like, "Oh, Jeff, I'd love to go out with you. I have an active life and that doesn't work, but I'm super available on Thursday or Friday."
Yes. Yeah.
Like keep it simple, but it's amazing how many people really want you to know how busy they are.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's like maybe a way to, tell them like how
I'm
important you are.
well, exactly. That's the thing. So it's leaking that insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I had another one of my guys that I interviewed for my man panel tell me about a date. It was actually in Vegas. Went to like a really amazing restaurant. He was like, I'm gonna wine and dine her. This is gonna be amazing. And he didn't know because it was like their second date. She was like an amateur sommelier.
Mm-hmm.
He did
Mm-hmm.
not know this, right? So the waiter comes up and, can I help you? And she's like, Christian, let me take care of this. So I'd like to know what's your what's on the menu. I'd like to pair this with this. And then, Christian, do you like, I think, so for the appetizer, we're going to have and he was just like, I'm out. He's like, I got nothing to add here.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
to
I mean,
mention that the bill was like $300.
oh, geez.
Which he, of course, was a gentleman and paid. But it was just so over the top. So again, it's these little things that when I talk to women, they would be like, well, what's wrong with that? I just wanted to like have a really cool dinner and this is my thing. And so I'm like, no.
So don't act like a dude in a skirt.
Yeah, we probably won't have time to go through all 7. But the third one that I think is really important that men really want women to know is that you are leaking your energy, right?
Okay.
And I know that most people are like, oh no, I'm not a dude in a skirt. I mean, I wear a skirt, I'm open. I'm doing this and I'm doing that. If you have your guard up, if you think like, I hope he's not a waste of time. If you're thinking, I hope he likes me. If you think, he has to prove that he's not a jerk like all the rest of them. Whatever you're thinking that is protective, right, is going to be transmitted energetically, and it comes across in your body language, the stories you tell, the words you use, every single thing. And men may not be able to say what it is exactly, but they mostly report it as, she was great on paper, she was super attractive, but something was off. Like there's just wasn't that chemistry. And so just be aware that your results are going to show you what the challenge you have is, and that if you're not getting second and third dates, if you're not progressing after 4 or 6 weeks, your energy is leaking. All that stuff that you're keeping to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that saying, I think it goes something like, who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word that you're saying. And because you really can't. Communication's only 7% verbal. The rest of it's all the other stuff that people can feel and pick up on. And that's the chemistry. That's, like you said, the reason why things are working or not, because, they can feel that. They know,
They
what you're trying to
know.
hide.
And a quality, like a really quality adult, mature person of any age, by the way, I'm not an ageist. They don't want to play games. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
they don't want you to play hard to get. They want you to pick up when they call. They don't want to wait 3 days for a text, like all this nonsense. It will attract a guy who is a game player, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
play the game, a guy who's a game player will play with you.
Yeah.
But a really quality guy, it's like, if you're free, tell me. If you're available, text me back. If you want to go out, if you like me, let me know. Like, they don't have
Yeah.
time. They don't have time for this shit.
I want to tell you something, and I don't know if I advise this. I'm not a dating, advisor, but it just validates what you're saying. I mean, when my husband and I went out on our first couple of dates, I don't think it was a very, very first date, but it was with, I'm like so excited. I was so excited, and he kissed me, and I'm like, oh, like, so when can we see each other again? Like, I was so excited, but I was just being myself. And he said, well, how about tomorrow? And, I like jump up and down. I spun around. I was like, and that is one of his fondest memories of our early days, was him seeing the excitement on me. And I'm not necessarily, I don't know, like, a lot of people advocate for playing it cool, but I'm like, what, if that's not who you are, then they don't really like who you are. If you
Well, yeah, because here's what's beautiful about what you said, and maybe I wouldn't say like when, I want to see you again, but
what can I say?
but that being said, what I love that you did, which is the key, is vulnerability, right? You've gone on a date with someone and it's vulnerable. Like, you could have said, I really like you. This was really fun. I want to see you again. Right. And then he could have not called, right? Because you don't know the outcome. That's vulnerability. But that is what it's really attractive. And then you're giving the signal, because men are human. They're not like, angry humans. Like, they're like, oh, thank God she likes me. If I ask her out again, she will say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they want
Yeah.
it to be easy too. They've been rejected too. So vulnerability is the key to connection. And when you say like, I really like you, it feels
Yeah.
scary, you're probably doing the right thing.
Exactly. So speaking of that, my last question for you is, like, what do men really ultimately want? What is it that men ultimately
Well,
want?
I'm not a man, but I've interviewed a ton of them. What they want is, and what they're looking for, especially in those first, like if they read your profile or they're really getting to know you, they want to know how life will be. And they're simple. Men are simple, they really are in that way. They want to know that life will be fun and easy with you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
They want to know that you're going to add to their life, that they want to know that you're emotionally able to take care of yourself, a healthy guy, right? Not like
Mhm.
you don't need them, but that like they're not going to have to. One of the biggest reasons really great guys break up with women who are insecure is because they realize no matter how reassuring they are, no matter how much they tell you they're beautiful, no matter how much they take, they take attention and they have time, and if you're still like jealous, insecure, feel like they're not spending time with you, they're like, I can't sustain it. Like, I'm giving you everything I've got and you don't believe me. So they need to know that you can receive their compliments, their attention, that you can trust them, and that life with you will be built better. And then what's great is, and this is so true 100% of the time, all men want to do with the right woman is they just want to make it easy. They just want to make you happy. Like, happy wife, happy life. Every single guy is like, do I say I'm sorry? Is this the part where I say I'm sorry and mean it? Like, right? Is this the part where like, do you want to go to this restaurant? Is that what you really want me to do? Because they can't read our minds. So they just want you to be happy, and they want to know how to do that in an easy way. And then life is good. They're
That's
simple.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you know what? I think they are so much more simple. It drives me crazy when
Yes.
women, say, oh, I think when he does that, this must mean this, and, and kind of read into, no, it's like, no, what they said is exactly what what they meant.
It's so true. And there's a great, I just did a live stream and I used a clip from an oldie but a goodie, Sex in the City. And they're it's all the girls, I think, are at a dinner with Berger, who was Carrie's boyfriend at the time. And Miranda's like, okay, girls, like I went on this great date and then he walked me to the door and he kissed me. And then I said, do you want to come up? And he was like, oh, I have a meeting in the morning. What do you think? And all the girls are like, it means this, it means that, it means this. And Berger's like, you really want to know what it means? They're like, what? He's like, he's not that into you. A guy will stay up late. He'll be late to a meeting. Like if he wants to see you, he will see you. He will swim. So another man I interviewed said, in a hurricane, we will swim upstream, to be with you when we are into you. And so wait for that guy.
Yeah. You know what? It's interesting you brought up that book, because it was after reading that book that I finally met my husband, because it was just so easy. The signs were just so easy and clear to realize that, like, okay, this guy's acting. This guy's not. So this one's not into me. So you don't take it personal, because it's not about you. It's like there's millions and millions of men that, are out there, and not every one of them is going to be the right match.
And typically, maybe not today, but typically you only need one at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, you've provided us some great insights, some great tips, especially how people can just navigate in today's world. And it isn't always necessarily going to be that way, but even though it is that way now, I think these are things that we're going to be able to take and apply in our future as well. And
100%.
so I think this time is really helping us to evolve and become stronger as a society. Ultimately, once we get through this, we're going to be like looking back going like, wow, I got through that. I can get through anything. Not that it's, I don't know, for some, it's been a major challenge. For others, like my life hasn't really changed, too terribly much. I've always worked from home, and it's just fine. But but for those people who are really, really feeling challenged by this, and really, really feeling like, God, I really want to meet Mr. Right. And, these tips are really valuable. But you also left us on a little bit of a cliffhanger with those 7 suggestions. So I'm going to recommend that people go to your website and find out what the rest of those tips are.
Absolutely. Check out, there's the blog, there's a podcast. We have a training, about how to meet a quality guy. So yeah, go there. There's so much. And just know that, yes, it's a pandemic, but I promise you there's 82% more people that were online now than there were before, and they're looking for love. So change your mindset, raise your vibration, and go make it happen and celebrate. And then let me know.
Yes. And your chances are even better than ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. I love that message. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for being on the Power of Your Mind podcast. And thank you, listeners, for also listening to the show today. And we will see you next week.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.